Okay, let's jump right in. We're talking about one of the biggest transformations in music history.
Right.
The shift from the Baroque era, which was often really complex and heavy, to the clean, ordered elegance of the classical period.
We're looking at the years from about 1730 to 1820.
And this wasn't just a change in, how the music sounded. It was a whole revolution in how music worked in society.
Well, what's so fascinating is that it was a deeply intellectual thing. The whole change was driven by the Enlightenment.
The philosophy that valued reason and logic.
Exactly. It was all about clear individual thought. Composers took that idea, this concept of rational structure, and they applied it directly to music. They wanted to simplify things, to move away from all that ornate stuff from before.
So music got clearer. It's like taking a super busy, cluttered painting and turning it into an elegant, easy-to-read blueprint.
That's a great way to put it.
And that clarity had a huge effect on who actually listened to music. Suddenly, it wasn't just for church or for royalty.
No, it had to appeal to a paying middle-class audience. It had to be accessible, something you could get right away.
Which is why public concerts became so popular.
Exactly. And the whole center of the music world really shifted to Vienna. That's where you get figures like Haydn and Mozart setting the new standards. Standards we still kind of use today.
Okay, so let's get into that new sound. If the goal was clarity, how do they actually do it?
Well, the absolute main focus was on the melody. The tune itself was king.
And to make that melody stand out, they changed the whole texture of the music.
They did. They moved almost completely to something we call homophony.
Okay, what does that mean in simple terms?
Think of it this way. Baroque music was often like a bunch of people talking at once. Every musical line was important, weaving around the others. That's called polyphony.
Got it. So homophony is?
Homophony is much simpler. You usually have one main tune, the star of the show, and it's supported by simple chords.
Like a lead singer with a backup band.
The perfect analogy. It makes the music incredibly easy to follow. The complexity wasn't in how many things were happening at once, but in how the whole piece was structured.
And structure was everything, right? The rhythms were really regular, easy to tap your foot to.
Yes, which again helped to make it accessible.
But wait, if everything was simpler, how do they keep people interested for a whole symphony without it getting, boring?
By using contrasting moods, they were constantly changing things up within a single piece of music.
So they wouldn't just stay happy or serious for the whole thing.
Not at all. They'd move from a light, graceful part to something really tense and dramatic. It was all about keeping you on your toes emotionally.
And this is where volume becomes a huge deal. We take it for granted, but the idea of gradually getting louder or softer was totally new.
It was revolutionary. We call them crescendos and decrescendos.
Before this, it was just loud or soft, like flipping a light switch.
Pretty much. But these gradual changes let composers build real, sustained drama. That slow build from quiet to a huge, powerful moment. That's the classical era at its best.
And this idea of elegant structure, it was in the phrasing of the melodies, too.
Absolutely. The music was built on these balanced, symmetrical phrases.
Like a musical question and answer.
Exactly. Or like the perfect symmetry in ancient Greek architecture. This precision created a feeling of perfection, and musicians had to play incredibly tightly to pull it off.
But that kind of control and precision, you couldn't get that from a harpsichord, could you? This leads us to the piano.
Yes, the piano revolution. The invention of the instrument we now call the piano, though it was first called the fortepiano, was a massive turning point.
So explain the key difference. Why did the harpsichord suddenly become obsolete?
Okay, so a harpsichord plucks its strings. No matter how hard or soft you press the key, the pluck sounds the same. It's just one volume.
All or nothing.
All or nothing. The piano, on the other hand, uses tiny hammers that strike the strings. So the harder you press the key, the harder the hammer hits and the louder the sound.
So it could play forte, which means loud, and piano, which means soft. That's where it got its name.
Precisely. And this new instrument was perfect for those gradual dynamic shifts, the crescendos and decrescendos that composers were so excited about. It took over very, very quickly.
So new sound, new instrument. They needed new rules, right? A blueprint for these big pieces.
They did. And this is where we get the two big building blocks of the era. The symphony and sonata form.
Let's start with the symphony.
The symphony became the most important, the grandest form of orchestral music. It's basically a long piece split into 4 distinct sections or movements.
And each movement has its own job to do, its own mood.
Yes, and this 4-movement structure became the standard roadmap.
Walk us through it. What's first?
The first movement is usually fast and ambitious. It's where the composer lays out the main ideas, and it almost always uses that complex structure we'll talk about next, sonata form.
Okay, so you start with high energy, then you slow things down.
Right. The second movement is slow, calm, and really lyrical. It's the emotional heart of the piece where the composer gets expressive.
What about the third? Is it fast again?
It's usually a dance, like a minuet. It's more formal, a bit light and bouncy. It keeps the energy up without being too intense.
And finally,
The fourth movement is a fast, energetic finale, often even faster than the first movement, designed to bring the whole thing to a thrilling conclusion.
and these were long pieces, right? A symphony could be 20, 30 minutes, even longer.
Oh, yeah.
But the real genius, the map inside the map, is that sonata form you mentioned, especially in the first movement.
Sonata form is the intellectual engine of the whole era. It's a logical pattern of tension and release that let composers write these long, complex movements that still felt balanced and clear.
So how does it work? It has three main parts.
Three main parts. First is the exposition. This is where the composer introduces the main melodies or themes. Think of them as the main characters in a story.
Okay, so you meet the characters.
And, crucially, they're presented in two different musical keys, which creates a little bit of tension right from the start.
Then you need some drama, some conflict.
That's the development. This is the chaotic, creative middle section. The composer takes those themes, breaks them apart, twists them around, and moves the music through all sorts of unstable keys. It's the unpredictable part of the story.
So after all that chaos, you need a resolution.
And that is the recapitulation. This is the really satisfying part. Those original themes from the beginning come back.
But there's a difference.
A crucial difference. Now, they're both played in the original stable home key. It gives your ear this feeling of coming home, of everything being resolved. And sometimes they add a little ending called a coda, just to finish with an exclamation point.
The logic is so clear. You introduce a problem, explore the chaos, and then bring it all back home.
It's the Enlightenment in musical form. Reason and order win in the end.
So who was playing all this? The orchestra itself was changing.
It became standardized. The classical orchestra grew and was structured into 4 predictable groups: strings, woodwinds, brass, and percussion.
The strings were still the heart of it, carrying the melodies.
Always. But the other sections got really clear roles. The woodwinds, flutes, clarinets added color and texture. The brass, trumpets, and horns were for loud, powerful moments. And percussion was basically just the timpani drums for dramatic effect.
And with this bigger, more organized group, you suddenly needed a conductor to keep everyone together.
You did, and that big orchestra contrasts so nicely with chamber music.
Which is music for a smaller room, a chamber.
Exactly. It was for private enjoyment, not a huge public concert. And the star of chamber music was, without a doubt, the string quartet.
2 violins, a viola, and a cello.
Right. And with no conductor, the players have to listen so closely to each other. It was often called a conversation between 4 intelligent friends.
Okay, so we have the sound, the instruments, the rules. Let's talk about the masters who defined the era. And we have to start with Franz Joseph Haydn.
The father of the symphony and the string quartet, he basically wrote the playbook.
And he had a really stable job, which was rare.
He did. He worked for a wealthy, noble family, the Esterházys, for decades. That meant he had a steady income. And, this is key, his own private orchestra to experiment on.
He was known for having a sense of humor in his music, too.
Oh, absolutely. His music is cheerful, it's clever, and it has actual musical jokes. The most famous is in his Surprise Symphony, where a super quiet part is suddenly blasted with a loud chord.
To wake up the audience.
That's the story. He wrote over 100 symphonies, standardizing that 4-movement structure for everyone.
Next up, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. If Haydn was the architect, Mozart was just pure natural talent.
A true child prodigy. He was composing at age 5. He had this unbelievable gift for writing beautiful, perfect melodies, and he mastered every single genre. Symphonies, operas, you name it.
But unlike Haydn, he had a much harder life financially.
He did. He tried to be a freelance musician in Vienna, and he really struggled. He died tragically young at just 35. His skill was just legendary. People said he could hear a piece once and remember the whole thing perfectly.
Wow.
His music is all about that perfect balance, but with this incredible emotional depth just underneath the surface.
And finally, the giant who started in the classical style but ended up pointing the way forward, Ludwig van Beethoven.
He really is the bridge. He started out sounding a lot like Haydn and Mozart, But as he got older, he started adding so much more power, more raw emotion. He was pushing against the elegant boundaries.
And of course, you can't talk about Beethoven without talking about his hearing loss.
It's one of the most incredible stories in all of music.
How does a composer
Yeah.
go deaf and then write some of the most powerful music ever?
It's almost unbelievable. The tragedy plunged him into despair, but he channeled that struggle directly into his music. He made it bolder, more personal. He made the orchestra bigger, the dynamics more extreme, the movements much, much longer.
He didn't just fit the mold, he broke it.
He absolutely broke it. His later work starts in the classical world, but ends up creating the dramatic, individualistic sound of the Romantic era. His music isn't just about elegant structure. It's about the struggle and triumph of being human.
So when you sum it all up, the legacy of this era is just
Yeah,
huge.
it is. The classical era codified the rules of music. The structure of the orchestra, the form of the symphony. These are the standards that allowed professional concerts to really take off. And they're still the basic forms we use today.
It really proved that music can be intellectually complex with all those rules like sonata form and emotionally satisfying at the same time. You know, that elegant balance we talked about, that question and answer structure.
Right.
So next time you hear a huge film score or even a pop song with a really clear verse and chorus, just remember that idea of symmetrical elegance. It started right there in Vienna. It proves that sometimes the greatest emotion can come from the clearest structure. Good luck with your studies.